Abhin Chhabra, and I'm a developer on the Bitbucket team. And today I'm going to talk about all the new and shiny things in Bitbucket that have been created since 2015 Atlas Camp. So last year at Atlas Camp, we released the first implementation of Atlas Connect for Bitbucket. It was an important step for us, the most important step in transitioning from a product to a platform. So take a look at that screen over there. Some parts of it are rendered by Bitbucket Core, and other parts are rendered by an add-on. Those parts right there are rendered by an add-on, and the rest is core Bitbucket. It's very seamless. Or if you take a look at that screenshot, again, some parts are rendered by Bitbucket Core, others by an add-on. Those guys right over there. That's an add-on. The rest is Bitbucket Core. It integrates really well, and we're really proud of it. And it's all done through plain old HTTP and iframes. Your add-on could be an independent service running using a technology of your choice, or it could be a little bit of JavaScript running inside an iframe and communicating with Bitbucket over a JavaScript bridge, or a combination of both. But a lot has changed since last year, and I'm going to talk about, quickly, all the things that have changed since last year in Bitbucket Connect. I'm going to split the talk into two sections, improvements and just brand new features. So let's go on with the improvements. The first improvement is called new web item targets. Before I talk about what these new web item targets are, I want to review what a web item is. In that screen, you may notice that pull request guidelines link right there. That's a web item. It's just a link. You click on it, and it takes you to a different page. Simple. It's actually one of the simplest kinds of extensions through Connect. How is it done? It's done by adding that snippet in your descriptor. A descriptor, by the way, is just a JSON document describing your add-on, describes how your add-on will be installed, how it will work with Bitbucket, and how it will interact with you. You can see that we mention the name of the add-on, a URL, which you may notice is a URL template, which gets populated in real time, and you mention a location. And you do that, and a link appears, and you click on it, and it takes you to a new page. So now check this out. You click on it, and it opens a new dialog. How did that happen? That is a new target, and that's what targets are. So the only thing I did to get that was to add a target type dialog in there, and it caused that same old module to pull up a dialog instead of opening a new page. So that's what a target is. A target changes the way your web item interacts when a user clicks on it or interacts with it. What else do we have? Take a look at this one. You click on it, and it opens up a dialog in place. That's an inline dialog. You get to determine the size, the location, whether it should show up on hover, and all that stuff. And you do that through a different target type. That's it. That's all there is to it. So that was the first improvement. The second one I'm going to talk about is better installation. So for a minute, put yourselves in the shoes of a user. You go to the marketplace, you're browsing through add-ons, and you like some specific add-on. So you click on it. You click on the install. We pop up a dialog showing all the scopes that the add-on is requesting and ask you if that's OK. The user clicks OK, and we take you back to the marketplace. That's a lost opportunity. I mean, maybe we should have taken the user to some documentation. Maybe we should have told them, given them a video and shown them what to expect, how to interact with this add-on. And that wasn't there when we first released Bitbucket Connect last year. Soon after, we realized that's a problem. And now, after the installation completes, you can take a user to any page of your choice. We recommend taking them to some documentation, some video, show them what to do next. How do you do that? You add a module to your descriptor, a post-install redirect, and you mention which URL to take the user to. Much like all the URLs in Bitbucket Connect, we have context parameters. So these context parameters get populated in real time depending on the user. In this case, the user's UUID and type. What about the other use case where you just built your add-on, you Maybe you want to do a blog post about it. Maybe you want to do an ad buy. You tell the user about your great add-on and how you've built it, and you tell them to go to the marketplace and install it. But what if the user doesn't find the thing in the marketplace because they skip it, they miss it, they get distracted? So you probably want to link them directly to the add-on inside of the marketplace. But you could do one better. You could just trigger the installation flow directly from your blog post or your ad buy. So you write a blog post, you use the special link that I'm going to talk about, and set the title to install the add-on now. The user goes directly into the installation dialog, gets to choose which account to install in, and depending on success or failure, your page of your choice shows up, and you tell the user what to do next. How does it work? Well, you use that URL, you provide a redirect URI, and you provide one of the descriptor URI or an add-on key. That's it. It's very simple, and you can take the user directly from your blog or your ad buy to the install flow. The third improvement I'm going to talk about is improved auth. By improved auth, I'm referring to both authentication and authorization. Before I talk about how we've changed auth, because this is the meatiest part of the talk, I want to talk about what used to be auth as of AtlasCamp 2015. To describe how authentication worked, and still works to some extent, I'm going to use an example add-on. This example add-on is called Pull Request Guidelines. All it does is it renders a checklist of things to consider when you're reviewing a PR. You can look at any one of these guidelines, and you can quote them. So the guideline is then quoted on behalf of the user into the pull request as a comment. And the content for that dialog is populated by parsing your repository's contributing.md file. So using this example add-on, I'm going to show how auth works. On the left side, you have a team admin who's about to install this add-on. Up top, Bitbucket. On the right, the add-on. So first off, the team admin decides to install the add-on. They hit the install button. Bitbucket then fetches the descriptor of the add-on at this time. Two important parts of the descriptor that I want to point out: the scopes and the OAuth consumer. The scopes defines what scopes the add-on is asking for when it authenticates as the account being installed to. So in this case, the add-on wants to be able to pull up the contributing.md files of all the repositories as the team itself, and it's asking for that scope. In addition, you see the OAuth consumer, and on the right side is the configuration for that OAuth consumer. It's got the pull request write scope, which means this is how the add-on wants the end user to be able to write to a pull request and create comments in the pull request on behalf of the end user. So again, scopes is when the add-on wants to authenticate as the team itself, and the OAuth consumer is when the add-on wants to authenticate as the acting user, as the requesting user. So going back to our flow, the add-on pulls up the descriptor, notices that the add-on wants the repository scope, and brings up a dialog to the team admin. The dialog says, hey, this add-on wants the repository scope. Is that cool with you? And the user in this case says, OK. The installation starts, finishes, and when it finishes, Bitbucket posts back a installed event to the add-on. This is a lifecycle event, and it's important. This is when Bitbucket tells the add-on what the connection ID is for the installation and a shared secret. Now, the shared secret is used for authentication between Bitbucket and the add-on using JSON Web Tokens, or JWT. So now when the add-on wants to pull up all the contributing.md files of all the repos in the team, it goes ahead and signs a request using JWT, using that shared secret, makes a request, gets all the files. And it's able to store them in the database. Great. But now you need a team member to be able to interact with the add-on. So the team member shows up, clicks on the button that gives them the dialog for the various guidelines. At this point, Bitbucket pulls up a dialog, populates the URL of the dialog, which has an iframe inside of it, by the way. So sets the URL of that iframe to the URL the add-on mentioned in their descriptor. It signs it with JWT using that shared secret, so the add-on knows it is from legitimate Bitbucket. The add-on then pulls up the contributing.md file, converts it to a checklist, renders it. Now the user shows up and looks through the guidelines. The user likes one of them and thinks that this makes a great addition to the pull request as a comment. They click on it, they want to quote it, and now the add-on is responsible for commenting on their behalf. How does it do that? It makes an API over the JavaScript bridge. The JavaScript bridge at this time recognizes that the add-on has an OAuth consumer associated with it. The team member has not yet granted that scope to the add-on. So Bitbucket brings up a dialog saying, this add-on wants to be able to write to pull requests on your behalf for all your repositories. Is that OK? The user says yes, and the comment goes through. So that's the whole process as of AtlasCamp 2015. Let's talk about what's wrong with that process. There are three things that I can see. First off, there are two sets of scopes. That's confusing for the user. That's confusing for the developers. One set of scopes for the add-on to authenticate as the team. Another for the add-on to authenticate as the requesting user. It's confusing. There are two approvals. You had to approve once to install the add-on, and you had to approve once when you wanted to comment. So think of the point of view of the team admin. The team admin potentially has to do two approvals. Immediately after installing, when they approved, if they decide to quote, they have to approve again. That's kind of weird and fishy. They first get a repository scope approval and then a pull request write approval. And the third, and this is the worst aspect of the current flow, is that the token generated as a result of that OAuth dance for the pull request write scope, that token can be used to write to pull requests not just of the team that the add-on was installed in, but all the teams the team member is part of. So if the team member was part of two teams and one of them installed the add-on, the token generated can be used to access the other team as well. That's not very secure. So what did we do to fix it? Well, we have a new auth mechanism, and the way to trigger it is to just remove the OAuth consumer from your descriptor. You just remove it, and you notice that I've also updated the scopes up there with repository and pull request write. Pull request write technically also means repository, but I've mentioned it for clarity. So you update the scopes. That's the only set of scopes, and you remove the OAuth consumer. The installation happens exactly how it happened before, but this time when the team member decides to quote the PR, Bitbucket is able to just go ahead and make the call over the JavaScript bridge. Sorry, the add-on is able to make the call over the JavaScript bridge, and the comment just goes through. There is no grant. It's a different type of token that was used to make that request. It's not the OAuth token used previously. This is a special type of token, and the properties of this token are, it is restricted to the same scopes mentioned in the descriptor. It is also restricted to the repositories and the resources owned by that team that the installation happened in, and it's very short-lived. So because of the very, very narrow scope of this token, we didn't feel the need to bring up another confirmation screen for the end user, because we really are just emulating the single-tenant use case instead of the multi-tenant use case. So it's a safer mechanism, and it's better user experience. All right, moving on. This is the fourth improvement that I want to talk about, easier development with webhooks. Let's talk about what a webhook is. A webhook is a mechanism by which you can trigger an event using an HTTP request to an external service when something happens in Bitbucket. How does it work with Connect? Well, you mention a module, you mention a URL, and the type of event you're interested in. So when that event happens in Bitbucket, a request is fired to that URL. Very simple. So what's changed? Nothing's changed in the mechanism of webhooks themselves, but we realized over time that developing with webhooks could be troublesome sometimes. So let's say you're developing an add-on on your local machine. You set up that add-on with Bitbucket. Bitbucket fires a request as a webhook, and it doesn't arrive. Why is that? It could be network connectivity. It could be a firewall. Maybe you didn't set up the webhook correctly. It could be one of the many reasons. How do you debug that? You can. It's just harder. And we thought we could make that easier. So the thing we've done here, if the video starts playing, so you notice that on the top there's an item called Hello World Abhin. That appeared when I installed an add-on that asked for specific webhooks in a repository owned by that team. So when you set up webhooks with Connect, it actually integrates with the UI and shows up in the UI. Not only that, You can click on this and view the details. You can see that the add-on did actually set up webhooks correctly. It used the 2 triggers, the pull request comment created and a repository push. And you can see the URL, which is my add-on running on my local machine when this video was recorded. So to trigger a webhook event, I should probably create a comment, right? So I go onto a different tab. I create a new comment, a very bland and boring comment, but I do. I comment, and I go back to the webhook interface, and I hit load new requests, and you can see that a request was made by Bitbucket to my add-on, and my add-on responded just over a second in duration. You can click on this request and view the details of the request itself. You can see that those are the headers for the response that your add-on sent. Those are the headers for the request. You can see that body. It's a very much more descriptive body than we had previously, containing all sorts of stuff. And if you realize you had made a bug and you wanted to try again after fixing something, you can just fire off a repeat of the previous request without actually having to perform that event yourself. You can re-trigger webhooks very easily. So what's improved is it integrates with the UI. There's improved troubleshooting. You can see the actual body of the request fired. You can replay. And it's a more descriptive payload. Sorry. Remember that you don't have to build a Connect add-on in order to use webhooks. Webhooks are also a standalone feature. So now I'm going to go over the new features. First off, build status. What's a build status? Well, a build status is a status that you can post, your add-on can post, for any commit inside of Bitbucket. So in this example, when the user pushes to Bitbucket, Bitbucket notifies an external service of the push. The external service posts a status for a given commit from that push and says that the service has started a build. When the build finishes, the service can tell Bitbucket that the build for that commit finished or that the build failed. This is invaluable for services like CI, but CI services aren't the only examples. You can be as creative as you want. How does it look in the UI? Well, you can see the list of commits over there. You click on the build, and you click on the build for that commit, and you can see 3 passed. You can see that one where the test with Chrome passed, but the test with Firefox failed. Each commit can have as many build statuses as you want, but branches can also have build statuses. A branch's build status is merely the build status of the head commit. And a pull request can also have a build status, which is merely the build status of the source branch. What can you use build statuses for? Well, there's the usual tests, linting, actual package building, whatever. Those are usual cases. But you can be creative. You can add arbitrary code quality metrics and pass or fail builds based on that. You can have something about, the test coverage has to increase as compared to the parent commit. You can have that criteria, post to build status. You can even have a build status posted on whether the number of WTFs in the code has increased compared to the parent commit. Like, you can do whatever you want. You can be as creative as you want with build statuses because they're so simple and generic. Now, moving on to the next feature, linkers in Connect. What's a linker? Not that guy. In this screenshot over here, you can see the description that says, for more details, view proj1234. When I typed that description out, I did not make a link with proj1234. I just typed proj1234. And Bitbucket recognized that pattern, proj1234, and made a link out of it. And at the bottom, you can see the link goes to my add-on. How did I do that? Well, there's a linker module. You can add a linker module and register a regex. In this case, I'm registering proj-_d+. So any number followed by proj- is a valid pattern. Whenever a user enters any input in a comment, description, whatever, containing that pattern, Bitbucket will convert that given token to a link. So you can see the type href. And the link will be generated as project/1. \1 is capture group number 1, which is why there's round braces around the regex. So you can, if you have a service that you're trying to integrate with Bitbucket, and the service has well-known IDs, let's say Jira. Jira does use this, by the way. So when you have a project in Jira and you mention the Jira key, Bitbucket converts that to a link. Now, you can have that functionality in your add-on, too. But href is not the only linker type in town. Check this video out. I go into a pull request. I go to a comment. I type out open curly brace, meme, pipe, no upper text, meme, some text below, pipe, type of meme, closing tag, and comment. And bam. There's a meme generator inside of Bitbucket that you can make using linkers. Isn't that crazy? And here's how you do it. There's going to be some regexes. You have a linker type, and the only thing special about this is the type image. You can actually take any pattern of user inputted text and convert that to an image with the source of the image set to that URL. And this whole add-on, this meme generator, is just a 10-line descriptor. The whole add-on is 10 lines long, and it does a meme generator. That's kind of awesome. And you can do that for things like build statuses, weird images you want to insert in comments for whatever reason. You can do all of that. And the last item here is the Fileview module. This is actually, I've saved it for the last because it's the most impressive of them all. So here, I'm going to play a video from one of our partners, Stillsoft, who've developed an add-on using the Fileview module. This is how you can display GeoJSON files inside of Bitbucket. Typically, they would be just a JSON blob, but you can render them as an actual map using this add-on. Why? Because you're able to display any add-on however you like using this module. What about 3D files? Typically, they would appear as view raw, but now you can have them running inside your iframe with arbitrary JavaScript to allow the user to interact with any file of your choice. Remember, this whole thing is just an iframe running your own JavaScript. You can render the content however you want. This is another 3D file, right inside a Bitbucket, rendered via an add-on. How about CSV and TSV files? That is typically how a TSV would appear inside of Bitbucket native. But with this add-on installed, you can actually render it as a table. You can sort the table. You can interact with it however you want. PDF files also viewed right inside of Bitbucket. So how does it do that? Well, there's a module called Fileviews that you can use. As you can see here, I've set the URL to be a URL to the endpoint inside of my add-on that would render this whole thing. I'm using 4 context parameters. One, the repo UUID, so I need to know which repo UUID this is. The file CSET, the file path, and the file name. Using this bit of information, my add-on can then make an API call to Bitbucket to give me the raw file. So when someone tries to view that file using my file viewer, I can pull down the file using the API and render it however I want. And here, you can see I've set up the extension to be PDF. So my add-on will be loaded whenever a PDF is being viewed. But that's for traditional use cases of file viewing. You can be a lot more creative. So this one by Tim Pedersen, who is actually a very creative person, lets you view the package.json files for node projects. So a package.json file just lists out the dependencies of your JavaScript project. But you don't have to render it as a JSON document. So I go into the file viewer selector, and I can use this add-on to render my package.json. The file viewer doesn't only render the stuff available in package.json. It actually pulls more information from NPM. So the description of each of these dependencies, the versions, the license, that's not available in the package.json file. That got pulled in using an API and got populated here. This is a better way to view a package.json file. In fact, at the bottom, you can see it even shows you which versions your dependencies are on and whether those dependencies are out of date. Like, imagine being able to flag packages with known security vulnerabilities right inside of Fileviewer. You can do that. But this is not the most creative thing I've seen Tim do. Something more creative is this new file viewer that allows you to view any file as a game. This is an actual video of the actual file being viewed right now. When I recorded this video, I was actually playing this game with my arrow keys, making the bucket jump, and viewing that file right there. The point I'm trying to prove using this video is you can do whatever you want with this file viewer. You can be as creative as you want and render any file however you want. It's really powerful. Well, that's actually all I have for today. If you have any questions, come chat with me. Thank you.